Alright, hello everyone, it's Silver Kyle here, and today I'm going to be doing my first ever video game review, and that will be of The Last Story on the Nintendo Wii. Now this is the North American edition of the game, and that's where I'd like to start this video off. Basically, the Nintendo Wii did not get a lot of RPGs. There are maybe only 10 games that you could actually consider as RPGs that came out for the Wii in its entire lifespan. And there's 3 specific RPGs that were released in the last few years in Japan, and that was Xenoblade Chronicles, Pandora's Tower, and The Last Story. Now these games eventually made their way to Europe, but it didn't look like North America was ever going to pick them up, even though they were already translated in English. And the thing was, all these games were very highly reviewed, and some people even said that these were the best RPGs in the last 10 years. So some RPG fans in North America decided to form a group called Operation Rainfall. Now the sole purpose of this group was to show fan support and interest in these games in hopes that somebody would pick up this game and bring it over to North America. Now they did succeed in 2 of the 3 cases with Xenoblade Chronicles and obviously The Last Story. So we're still hoping for Pandora's Tower, but at least we got these 2 games. Now with the North American edition of this game, it's kind of like the exact same European edition. It's still the same European actors, and they go very well with the story, but it's different packaging, and it's kind of like a special edition or a limited edition. It came at the same cost, but you got like this bookcase cover, and then as you open it up, you got the art booklet as well as the game itself. So very nice packaging, and this was released in August of this year in North America. So, with The Last Story, I guess I'll start with the story, and that's usually the main focus for RPGs. So the story is a group of mercenaries are, very tired of living day to day and having to fight for their lives, and they want to become knights. They see knights as a very, steady job, a solid job, and you're respected. It's a noble job. It's a job of power, and that's the main goal that they want. And the main character is Zale, and He's kind of like your generic main character. He's very kind-hearted. He really cares for people, and this is his main goal. And then his best friend Dagran, who's kind of like the leader of the mercenaries, that becoming a knight is his sole purpose in life, and having the entire group become knights is all he cares about, and he doesn't care what the cost is. He just wants to become a knight, and he wants all of them to become knights as well. And that's what really separates the story from being like a generic RPG story, because there is a love interest. The other female main character is Callista. She's a princess in a castle, and she has to marry somebody that she doesn't want to marry, and she starts to fall for Zale, and Zale starts to fall for her. And there's an evil king, and then there's some monsters called the Grak, who are also at war with the kingdom. So there's enemies that are humans, and there's enemies that are like the monsters. So it's kind of your general story there. But what really separates it is the characters. Now the characters in the story just add so much more depth because you get backgrounds for all of them. So there's, I think, in the main characters, there's Zale, Callista, Dagran, Lowell, Serena, Yurik, and some other mage. It's called Mariana or something. I can't remember her name. But either way, they all have very different characteristics. One of the characters, Yurik, is a mage, and he doesn't care for anybody. He doesn't see all the other mercenaries as friends. He sees them just as co-workers. He's very, keeps to himself, and you all find out why these characters are like this. There's another character, the one that I can't remember. She's a mage, and she's very in tune with nature, and she's starting to see that the land is dying, and that's going to be a huge problem in this game. And it's kind of like one of the big secrets when you start playing through the game. And Dagran just wants to become a knight. The main character, Zale, he just really cares about doing the right thing. And that's really the coolest thing about him, is that he's very true to what a knight would be. And as the story progresses, a minor spoiler, but you start to see that the actual knights do not care for being knights. They're just so happy that they have power, and they're greedy, and they don't even actually really want to protect anyone. They're very cowardly, and it's very different from the actual mercenaries who want to become knights, because they seem much more noble and almost more, ready to protect the public than the actual knights are. And Seren and Lowell, they are my favorite characters in this game because they are just hilarious. Lowell is just like this womanizer who just wants to be with as many women as he can, and he's always flirting with people. And Seren is this the drunk. She's just hilarious. She always just wants to get completely wasted, and she just really added a lot of humor to the game. So the characters are just amazing, and it's just, you know, mercenaries wanting to become knights. There's a general, Astar, who is like in charge of like all the knights, and he's a very, very noble knight. He's actually probably the most noble knight out there. And then he also has an apprentice who's kind of, you know, he doesn't trust all of the mercenaries, and they're very interesting as well. Eventually what happens is, you know, the castle gets under attack by the Garak, and then we find out that Zale has a power, that there's two powers in the world, it's shared by one of the Garak and Zale, and it just, as the story progresses, you slowly start to unravel just more layers of the story, and then that part is interesting, but for me it was really the characters. So that was one of the strongest parts of the game. Another strong part is surprisingly the sound, the music of this game. The soundtrack for when you're battling and stuff like that, and as the game is going on, it's good. It's even great at some points, but there's two specific soundtracks to this game, the main soundtracks, that are just amazing, and they play it at the beginning of the game, and every time that I would turn on the game, I would just let it play until the song was done, and then I would go to the next screen, which was like the menu, and then that started the second theme of this game, and I would just once again listen to it because it's just so good, and that plays throughout the entire game, and as the battles progress, they sometimes turn it on, and I just love it when that happens. So the soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks I have ever heard. The graphics of the game, because it is on the Wii, it does look good on the Wii, but it really can't compare it to like the PS3 or the Xbox 360. And I understand why they went with the Wii, because it probably didn't cost them as much to make a game. It does still look good on the Wii, but I will say that because it's taking up so much for the Wii to show these kinds of graphics, that there is some slowdown and lag when there's a lot going on, and that's one of the negatives of the Wii because of that. So you'll just be walking in this entrance at some point and it'll just slow down a lot. It doesn't really happen during battles, which is good, but more so when you're just running around in the city and there's very open areas and a lot going on type of stuff. Is there anything else? The art, though, is very good. Like, all the dungeons seem so different, and you're basically on this island throughout the entire game. It's a very big island, and you're either fighting on the outskirts of the city, or inside the city, or in like the castle, or in the dungeons, or even portals that let you go to different worlds. But it's all very different, and it's all very unique, and there's actual extra quests in the game that let you, like, if you can just go for the main story mode, or you can unlock different chapters of the game if you go to certain places and follow certain characters. So it's not just as linear. And it does give you extra weapons, and that's another cool thing, is that most of the cutscenes are all in-game. So if you have a different suit of armor and a different sword, when the cutscene changes, it'll follow what you're looking like, and all your other characters, you can change them up as well. You only play as one character, but you can kind of control them, and that's kind of like the gameplay. That is the biggest thing of this game, and that's not what I was expecting at all, because I was going to be playing on the Wii, and you actually have to use the nunchuck, and I was like, dear Lord, this is just going to be hell. I much prefer an actual controller than the Wii remote, but it worked in a very, very cool way, because you attack by pushing towards, you aim towards the nearest character. It's a third-person game, and it's not turn-based, so you're attacking with your sword by just, going towards them. And it works. It doesn't sound like it would work well, but it works flawlessly almost. And then there's extra attacks that, as you slowly progress through the game, that you can start to jump on walls and jump on people. And then you can also kind of control your party in the sense that you pause the game in a way, and then it's kind of like a chess game where you have to use every character's specific attributes. So one of the characters can do nature attacks, another character heals people, another character goes into a berserk mode, and they all have different power-ups, and they can throw, if the mages in the game throw these power-ups on the ground, and if you go into the circle, you'll attain the power-up, or you can use the main character Zale to go in and do a gale move and unleash that power, and it'll hit everyone in that area. So it's a very intricate battle system, and I love it. That is probably the strongest point to this game, is the battle system, even more than the storyline. And is there anything else? The game is about 20 hours long. It is kind of short for a an RPG. I was clocked in at 20 hours, but add in an extra maybe 5 hours for actual times that I died, because there are quite a few battles where you have to really learn all the weaknesses of the bosses, because they're all very unique and you all have to do something different for all of them. There's specific spiders that you can only attack at the back of them. The last boss just took forever to kill. It's just such a long progression, and you have to use your power-ups as much as you can. Anytime that you all have eventually specific power-ups that you can hit when you do the when you pause the chess battle system type of thing, and you have to use those as much as you can. Because for the last battle it's very, very hard. Another thing is that there's not a lot of grinding in this game. Like I said, you do have the option of doing extra quests, but if you have a character that you haven't used in a while, because you sometimes only follow certain characters, if you haven't used them for a while, they will, if they get into a battle, they will level up like 5 levels after one battle, because they'll get so much experience from the monsters you're battling. So you don't have to grind at all, except for the last boss. I think I was trying to beat him at level 58, and I leveled, I think 7 levels to get to 65 to make it a bit easier, because I just kept dying so many times. So it's only one time that I had to grind, and it was only maybe half an hour, 45 minutes of grinding. So other than that, I barely grinded at all in the game. So lasting appeal, like I said, it's about 20, you're clocking in about 20 hours, but I know that I'm going to be playing this game once again. And there is also a multiplayer system where you can just kind of just battle against other people online. That might add a few hours, but I could see that getting stale after a while. I only played it for a little bit. And it was just kind of cool to play against other people. And you can go into like a tournament type of thing, not a tournament, but the arena in like a team system, and then you can also do solo free-for-all type stuff. And that's not really where it is. It's mainly the 20-hour storyline, or the 25 hours, because you're going to die a few times. And I know that I will go back and revisit this one again. So I would probably give this game the strongest point, obviously, the gameplay, the battle system. Then I would probably say the storyline and the characters along with that. And then the actual soundtrack is just phenomenal. The graphics could be improved, but the art is very nice. It's very refreshing. Every place that you go in is different. But it's still, once again, just the Wii, so it is not as strong as it could be. And then the weakest point would probably be the there's a narration that I find kind of annoying. It's like if you have this big epic battle and then it goes to a narration and you're like, all right. So it's, I don't know, it doesn't work as well as I wish it did, and also the lag time every once in a while. So I would give this game an 8.5 out of 10. If you have a Wii and you like RPGs, definitely pick this game up. It is probably one of the best RPGs that I have played in the last quite a few years, and it is just something so new and refreshing. So 8.5 out of 10. If you have not tried The Last Story, I definitely recommend checking it out. Talk to you later, everyone. And you've been bearded in Beardage.